Hello. A few days ago, I binged watched Stranger Things Season 3, and today, I'm going to be blabbering on quite a bit about what I thought about the season. This season was obviously very highly anticipated after Season 2 left us on a cliffhanger, and I gotta be honest, I'm slightly disappointed with Season 3. I felt like it was just below mid. Like, it wasn't bad, it wasn't like terrible, I don't regret watching it or anything, but it wasn't as good as it should have been. It could have been way better. It was just kind of like, yeah, I guess that happened. Then there was also some parts of it that were incredibly good and very well acted. I have to give my credits to the actors because they all done a phenomenal job throughout the entire season. But now we're going to get deeper into it, you know, kind of the nitty gritty of the season. So huge spoiler warning because we're going to be talking about a lot of things that happen in Season 3. So huge spoiler warning if you've not seen Season 3. I'd click off the video now. But for those of you who have and are here for some reason curious of what I thought about it, let me tell you. So we're going to go through it bit by bit, and I want to start with the best game of this season was by far the hide and seek game. So how this game works is you have the blue team who their sole purpose is to go into the kind of maze, it's like a maze they're playing it in, and they have to either survive 30 minutes without getting killed or find an exit and escape through the exit. The red team's objective is to get in there, they're all given one knife, and they have to find someone on the blue team and kill a person from the blue team. Then that way they don't need to escape, they don't need to hide. As long as they can kill someone on the blue team, they pass, they're good. So if you're on the blue team, you need to survive 30 minutes or escape. If you're on the red team, you need to kill someone on the blue team. Very good idea for a game, splitting everyone into half. It just means, you know, you might have one person who got really close to this person, but they both get separate teams. You know, it's just very well thought out, and that did happen with quite a few people, I suppose. A lot of the main characters stayed together, you know, they were all mostly on the blue team, but then you had the odd few characters, like, I don't really know their names, so I'm kind of just going to call them by numbers. You had characters like Player 124 and Player 333 who were both on the red team, and then you had all the other kind of main characters on the blue team. However, at the start of the game, before the game even started, when they were deciding what team, who goes on what team, you had to like unwheel this, like it was like a giant gumball machine, and it would give you a color. It would either give you red or blue. So for example, player 149 and player 7 are mother and son, and they've had this incredibly close bond throughout season 2 and, well, the start of season 3, because this is only episode 2. And unfortunately what happened is the mother got red team, which means she had to go out and kill someone, and the son got blue team, which means he had to hide. So the son's been a bit of a pussy throughout the entire season 2 and the first episode of season 3. He's just always been by his mum's side. He's always been very scared. He's not really went and spoke to anyone else. He's always just been with his mum and with the people his mum talks to. And he thought it would be best if him and his mum switch, so then he gets red team and he has to then man up and go out and kill someone, and his mum gets blue team. Which they eventually agree to do, so they get in there, and blue team goes first, and they run off, and they find hiding spots, and they're trying to look for doors. They all get given a key so that they can try and unlock different doors and find the exit. And then I think it's like 2 minutes later, or 5 minutes later, or something like that, the red team goes in, and the red team's running around, and after number 7 goes in, he's kind of just there. He's kind of just wandering around. He's not really looking for anyone. And then it gets to a certain point where he finds someone, but he hesitates so much to kill them, which I'll go more into that later, but in this season, there's so much hesitation. Like, you'll have someone that's just murdered 500 people, and then someone standing there with a gun, and they're just standing there like this with the gun shaking, and then eventually they get tackled. Obviously, that doesn't actually happen, but it's just, that's how much hesitation there is. So player 7 finds someone, he hesitates so much that the guy starts fighting back. The guy almost gets to kill him, he almost gets on top of him and stabs him with a knife, until another person from red team comes in and obviously gets the kill. So then number 7 goes back to kind of, you know, loosely wandering around again, not really looking for anyone, and we're going to pause his story there and move over to his mum. So his mum is now wandering around with player 222, who is pregnant, and player 120. So they're wandering around. Obviously the woman is pregnant, like she's been pregnant throughout the entire season 2, so she is pretty pregnant, you know, like she's not in the beginning stages here, she's pregnant. So while his mum is comforting player 222 in her pregnancy, player 120 is kind of their defender, so whenever someone tries to approach them or, you know, try and come up to them with a knife, try to get a kill, player 120 steps in and they kind of sort it out. And it gets to a point where all three of them are in a room and the pregnant lady's water breaks, so the mum is helping actually remove the baby, you know, what would you say? She's helping. You wouldn't say she's helping give birth. She's helping deliver the baby, and Player 120 is kind of on the lookout. And then after the baby's born, someone does come in, and Player 120 gets in a bit of a scuffle with them. And after Player 120 kills that person, she finds the exit. Now, it turns out you've needed 3 keys for the exit, and there are 3 keys. There's a triangle key, a square key, and a circle key. And once you get all 3 keys, you can unlock the door, and you're out. So 120 kind of, you know, gets excited and steps out, but then she remembers she's got other people to go and help, so she goes back, and very unfortunate as she does get killed once she arrives back to, I'll call her the old lady because now there's 2 mums. So once she gets back to the old lady and the new mum and the newborn baby, she's like, oh, come on, I found the exit, let's go, let's go. And she gets stabbed in the back by none other than Player 333, who is the father of this baby. So rest in peace, Player 120. Very sad death, you know, very unfortunate. That's us 2 episodes in and we've already lost a very important character. But then what gets even worse than that is when the old lady, the newborn baby, and the new mother make it to this exit door, her son appears out of nowhere, and there's like 2 minutes left on the clock or something like that when he only had 30 minutes to kill someone. So he's obviously been hesitated and been scared this entire time that he's not got a kill. So when he sees... What the hell was that? Did anyone hear that? So when he sees his mother with this new mother and a newborn baby, his initial thought is, oh shit, I've got 2 minutes left. I need to kill someone in here. Now, he's obviously not going to kill his mother. His mother did try and get him to kill her because obviously she wanted that new mother and the newborn baby to escape. But she was like, kill me, kill me. And he refused to. But as soon as he saw Player 222 and her baby try and open the door, he pushes his mother out the way, runs over, closes the door, and he raises the knife. I don't know if he's going to kill the baby or Player 222. My thought was that he's going to kill Player 222 because the baby at this point doesn't count as a player. The baby eventually does count as a player. You know, the VIPs decide to make the baby Player 222 now after the mother's death. Which we'll get more into the VIPs later, of course, because they're just the most cringe, useless characters, but we'll get into that later. So he raises the knife, he's about to kill Player 222, then all of a sudden, he drops the knife. His hand's lower, he turns around, and his mother's had a knife hair pick. It's like a little thing she's got in her hair, but it's actually a knife. And it's stuck in his back. So it turns out his mother killed him to protect Player 222 and her newborn baby. And that's basically how he dies. He doesn't die due to being stabbed with a little hair pick. He dies to getting shot, but that's obviously because after he got stabbed, he dropped his knife and then the time ran out. And obviously since he hadn't killed anyone within that time, the guards shot him dead. So rest in peace, Player 7. That was definitely the saddest death throughout the entire season. Just a very unfortunate situation to be in, and such good acting from not only the mother, but also the son. I mean, Jesus Christ, such good acting. Now, there's been a lot of mixed views on how this scene played out. You know, you've got this side of people who think she done the right thing, protecting Player 222 and her newborn. And then you've got people on this side who think she did wrong because she killed her own son to save someone else's child and someone else. I'm going to be honest, I'm on this side. You know, if it was me in that situation and it was my son or my daughter and they were going to kill someone to survive, I would have to let them do it because it's my child. I wouldn't kill my child to save someone else's child. So that's what happened in the maze game with the situation between the mother and her son. And now let's move over to the main character, arguably, Player 456. Player 456 has a total of like 3 lines throughout the entire season. He's just so dead the entire season. After the death of, what is it, Player 190? Jung Bae, I think that's his name. Okay, his name is Jung Bae, but he's Player 390, not 190. So after the death of Jung Bae, Player 190, and the end of Season 2, that kind of cliffhanger, the main character, 456, has just been so boring. Like, they ended up taking him back to kind of the dorm rooms, and they just handcuff him, and then he's just handcuffed unless they're in a game. So anyway, going back to the maze game, he's set after one person and one person alone. Player 388. Why has he set his goals on killing Player 388? So if you can't tell, Player 388, Daeho, got the blue team, and 456 got the red team. So he's so set on killing Daeho and Daeho alone because at the end of Season 2, they went to war with the guards. I'm just going to brush past this real quick. And he basically sent Daeho back to the dorms to gather more ammo. But when Daeho got back to the dorms, he froze up and he couldn't take the ammo. And that's basically how Jung Bae died because they ran out of ammo and then the guards rushed them. You get the gist. So throughout the entire maze game, 456 is just wandering around, ignoring absolutely everyone until he finds player 388. Meanwhile, player 388 is obviously just running around, surviving, hiding, that sort of thing. And when he does find player 388, it's not underwhelming. They have like this mini tussle where, once again, I'll bring it up, he hesitates, he finds him crouched in the corner, and he lets him go on this like 3-minute long spiel on why he didn't bring the ammo back. Useless dialogue. It turns out he just got scared, and then the entire time he's been lying about being a Marine to fit in. Which changes nothing to the story, you know, him pretending to be a Marine just so he could fit in with everyone else, even though everyone else isn't a Marine, but you know, he didn't want to be seen as a loser. It's all just useless dialogue, but anyway, but by the end of it, they have a tussle, they have a fight, and 456 ends up losing his knife while he's in this fight, and he ends up choking Deho to death, so that was the end of Deho. And then 456 has come to the realization that it was all his fault because the whole plan of trying to turn against the guards and kill the guards was his idea, and that's how a lot of people ended up dying. I believe that's all that really happened. Obviously, player 456 got out because he got the kill. The old lady and the new mother and her newborn obviously got out because, well, the time ran out. They didn't actually get out. The time ran out and they hadn't died, so they survived the whole time, which still counts. And then obviously all the deaths I said, so now I guess we can move on to what happened after the maze game. Not too much happened after the maze game, just something that was pretty crucial to point out, that the old lady ended up hanging herself in the dorm rooms because she couldn't handle the fact that she killed her own son. Which once again is a very sad death, very unfortunate situation. All he had to do was kill someone. That was his sole goal. For him to survive, he had to kill someone. And he was such a scared little man throughout the entire thing that he didn't kill anyone until it was too late. So his mother killed him. She went back to the dorm room. She couldn't live with herself that she brought this baby into the earth and then took him out of it. So she ended up hanging herself. So now we can move on to the second game of the series, the jump rope game. So how this game works is there's a bridge and you've got these two massive statues of two kids and they're holding a rope. And they spin the rope round and round, and it's going up under the bridge. It's going on top of the bridge, on top of the bridge, on top of it, and spinning. And basically, your objective is to cross the bridge while jumping over the rope. I'm gonna be honest, it doesn't seem that hard. It seems like a very basic, boring, easy game. You just have to run a little on the bridge, stop, jump over the rope. Run a little on the bridge, stop, jump over the rope. It doesn't seem too bad. So everyone hesitates for the first like 5 minutes, just no one really wants to go, until 456 ends up stepping up. He has brought on the role of protecting player 222 and her baby, so she has ended up having a sore ankle. I can't remember too much what happened. Oh, yes, I do actually. In the hide and seek game, I forgot to mention, she fell downstairs and she kind of fucked up her ankle, so she can't really walk. She can walk, but she's very waddly, and obviously in jump rope, you have to jump over the rope, so she can't really do that. So what 456 has done is he's kind of tied the baby around himself, and his idea was to make it across the bridge, put the baby down, come back across the bridge, get player 222, and then cross the bridge again with her. So he begins this genius plan. He takes player 222's baby, he crosses the bridge, puts the baby down, and then by the time he turns around, someone has followed him across the bridge, and then everyone has followed them across the bridge. But what this guy's doing, who is right behind 456, is he's deciding to push everyone off the bridge because, obviously, if you haven't seen Squid Game, every time someone's eliminated, more money gets added to the prize pot for the winner. So this guy's pushing everyone off the bridge, and 456, with some more hesitation, is just standing there. Why are you doing this? Stop doing this. First thing I would have done is push that guy off the bridge. A, I get a little bit more money. I apologize for hitting my mic there, but A, I get a little bit more money, and B, this guy stops killing people because 456 has went back into the games to stop people from dying. So after some more hesitation and then a little bit of debate between him and the guy pushing everyone off, they kind of get into a little scuffle until eventually he does get the guy off. I should also mention this is where another kind of main character dies, Nam Yu, or player 124, who, for those who remember Thanos, the guy with the purple hair who spoke English sometimes.
I'm a legend, Thanos.
He died in season 2, and throughout the entire season he had this necklace of like a cross, and it had pills in it, and every time he'd take a pill it would like make him all happy and just helped him get through the Squid Games. So after he died, player 124 here then took that cross, and he's been popping the pills ever since. And now it's got to a point where he has lost the cross, he has no idea where it's went. And then a character called Min-soo has it. And he's a pussy as well. He's, you know, a very scared little man. And ever since he found it, he's been popping the pills too. So by the time it's got to this jump rope game, Min-soo's got the pills. He's fine, you know. All he has to do is pop a pill, and then he's got the energy, and he's kind of relaxed enough to get past the jump rope game. But meanwhile, player 124 doesn't have these pills, and he is, you know, he's rocking in the corner, he knees up to his chest. And then Min-soo approaches him, and he's like, "Hey, I have your pills." And 124 is like, "Oh, give them to me, give them to me." And then Min-soo does the most evil thing possible, and he throws the cross out onto the bridge. So 125 has to then go onto the bridge and try and get these pills. And once he has made it to the cross and he's opened it, there's no pills inside. Turns out 125, or Min-soo, took the last pill out of it before throwing it. And then that was the death of 124. Very dry death, you know. He scrambled along the bridge to get what he thought was pills, and there was no pills. So he got hit by the rope and he fell to his death. Then 125 pops the final pill, and he has basically become a drug addict at this point, because without the pills he can't do anything. So he pops the pill, he makes it along the bridge, all that is fine, all's well as ends well. Then player 333, who's had a pretty bad relationship with player 222, the pregnant lady. Obviously because he's the father, he wants to help her and kind of be involved with her throughout the rest of the Squid game, because obviously she's just had his baby. But she wants nothing to do with him, she doesn't want his help, so he kind of gives up on it. He crosses the bridge, and she is the last person to cross the bridge, obviously because her bad ankle, everyone is kind of rushed ahead of her. She's just kind of laid low, and by the time the timer has hit like 1 minute left, player 456 is about to go back over the bridge, keep his promise and help 222 over. But then 222 goes on this kind of little dialogue for the last minute, just saying how you've not got enough time, look after my baby for me, I wouldn't make it, blah blah blah. And then she ends up jumping off. So within the first 3 episodes, we have lost pretty much every single main character. Not a great start, Squid Game Season 3, not a great start. So the final game of the season is called Squid Game in the Sky, which is pretty much the exact same as the Season 1's Squid Game, except you're on different platforms. So how it works is there's 3 different platforms. There's a circle, a square, and a triangle, or, you know, whatever order it's in. And the objective is that everyone goes onto one of the platforms, and you have to push a button and then push someone off. As soon as someone has been pushed off, a little bridge will come out and you move on to the next platform, and then you need to push another button and push someone else off. So it's kind of like you just have to push someone off the edge to move on, pretty much. And like I mentioned, this is the final game, so whoever makes it past the Squid Game in the Sky gets to keep all the money. If more than one person makes it past, they just split the money. And by the time we've made it to this game, we have player 100, who's the old man who no one really likes, player 333, who's the father of the baby, you've got player 456 and the baby, because he's obviously protecting the baby, and then you've got just a bunch of nobodies, like people we've seen like once throughout the entire series, and they've not even had a line. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, Min-soo's also there. At this point, he's ran out of pills, so he can't actually pop any more pills, so he's going into this mental state now where he's seeing things and his brain's all messed up. The first platform's pretty easy. They decide to get rid of Min-soo. What they can do is eliminate Min-soo, then eliminate 456, then eliminate the baby, and then they would have eliminated 3 people on each platform. They just push him off the edge using a pole, and that's the end of Min-soo, which, very dry again, just underwhelming. He had no character behind him at all. A very useless, sad character. He went in there acting like a pussy, then he found pills and became a pill drug addict, and then he ran out of pills and started hallucinating, and then he got pushed off the edge. No character build there, so that's the end of 125, or Min-soo. So after they push Min-soo off, they all move over to the second platform, and this is where the idea starts to kick in that they should separate 456 from the baby and then push him off so that they can then get rid of the baby on the last platform. This doesn't go as planned because player 333 turns on them and he helps player 456 pretty much kill everyone on the second platform, which is the dumbest decision on planet Earth, because if they kill everyone on the platform, which is what happens, by the time they move on to the third platform, it's just 333, 456, and the baby. So one of them has to die. So it's either player 333 dies, who's the father of the baby dies, or player 456, who's been caring for the baby and the main character of the series, dies. So it's it was a very dumb decision. But before we move on to Platform 3, let's rewind a little bit, because I keep getting ahead of myself. I just want to talk about it already. But going back to the second platform, they come to this decision. The little lich, the little mob, comes to this decision that they should destroy, basically, one of their own guys, and then throw him off the edge, which they called him a lunchbox. So what they done is they beat the shit out of this guy to where he could barely move. They broke his legs, and the whole idea was to throw him off the edge, and then figure out who they're going to throw off the edge on the third platform. So they beat this guy up, they break his leg, and then this is where 333 turns on them. So then they get into this huge scuffle, 100 gets pushed off, and then this other guy gets pushed off, and then this other nobody gets stabbed, and he gets pushed off. And then it's just the dad, the main character, the baby, and the lunchbox. So obviously what you'd think should happen on the third platform is they drag the lunchbox over and they throw him off the edge, because he's a lost cause at this point anyway. He's an easy one to eliminate. That was the whole idea from the start. So that would have meant 456, 333, and the baby got off scot-free. They got to split the money, live their lives, whatever, right? But that's not what happens, because this lunchbox decides he's not dying for these sons of bitches. So while they're all fighting, he crawls over to the edge, and after the fighting's finished, he just falls backwards, giving them one of these, calling them all dickheads, and he kills himself on the second platform. So that's how we end up on the last platform with these three characters who are kind of cared for. They are cared for until 333 turns on 456, demanding to give him the baby. So player 333's plan was to take the baby off of 456 and keep 456 on platform 2, because if 456 is on platform 2 by the time platform 3 has started, if that makes sense, then he would forfeit because he's not on the third platform. So obviously 456 cooperates and he gives 333 the baby, and as the bridge is closing back up, 456 runs over and he jumps off the bridge and lands on the third platform. So this is where we have the final face-off of the season, I suppose, between 456 and 333. So I don't need to blabber on about this too much. Basically what ends up happening is they get into a fight because 333 was hoping to go away with the money by himself, but now that 456 has made it onto the third platform, he can't. So player 333 tries knocking player 456 off. Player 456 tries knocking player 333 off. And they get into this huge scuffle where it eventually gets to a point where it's like something at a superhero movie. Player 456 is hanging onto the platform with one arm. He's got his jacket in his other arm, and on the end of his jacket is player 333. Somehow he is holding the body weight of his own and player 333. Obviously you can tell what comes up out of this. Player 333, well, the jacket ends up ripping and he falls to his death. But it turns out the entire time these two idiots have been fighting, not one of them thought to push the button. So the round hasn't even technically started. All they had to do throughout the entire fight that they had was someone do this and push the button. Once they had pushed the button, player 333's death would have meant something, but it doesn't. It means nothing because it doesn't count because the button wasn't pushed. So now player 456 climbs back up onto the platform, obviously notices the button wasn't pushed, so the round hadn't even started, and by the time he pushes the button, it's just him and the baby left. So obviously he's been protecting this baby the entire time. He swore he would protect this baby, and he's kind of come to the realization that after this, there's no way of stopping the game. It's either he throws the baby off and goes away with more money, or he jumps off and leaves the baby alive. He ends up putting the baby on the platform, like more to the center so it doesn't roll off. And then he says this like mini speech and he's like, humans aren't horses, we're humans and humans are. And then after he says humans are, he just falls back and it's this really cinematic cinematic shot of him falling. And that's the end of the games. We waited like 6 months for season 3 to come out and every single main character died. Very disappointing end. So now let's get into some more characters that are outside of the game. Let's just talk just really quickly about the frontman. So 456 grew this bond with player 1, even though player 1 is the frontman. Obviously 456 doesn't know that. So they go through the entirety of season 2 up until the end friendly. And then it's the most underwhelming reveal in season 3. Basically what happens is the frontman, or player 1, demands 456 come up to his office. So 456 comes up, he sits down, and player 1 takes the mask off, and it's this big reveal. Hey, I'm the guy that you trusted throughout the second season of this show. And all player 456 does is grab a knife and stand up and do this. And then player 1 goes into this dialogue, even if you kill me, the games will continue. There's no point in killing me. You should take that knife and go and kill everyone else because they're plotting to kill you and the baby in the next game. Blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of what... It's not really what happens. He doesn't kill player 1. He walks off and he hesitates killing everyone else, but then he doesn't. That's kind of the reveal of the front man being player 1 to player 456. Just very shit. Very dry, very boring. It's just nothing. They could have done a much better reveal, a much bigger reveal. 456 could have been way more shocked. Holy shit, you're the guy I trusted. The games master is the man I trusted. But no. They would have literally been better saying, hey 456, by the way, I'm player 1 who you trusted. That was it. That was it. I already mentioned them briefly earlier, but I want to move on to the VIPs. Ever since I first saw the VIPs in Season 1, I never understood why they were even there. The VIPs are basically people who bet on players nearing the end of the games, and they win money for it, basically. So, they weren't terrible in Season 1. They were kind of just there. Like, I guess you could see the whole point of the Squid Games is so the VIPs could bet money on the players and stuff like that. But when Season 3 hit, and the VIPs got revealed on Season 3, they are the worst actors I've seen in my entire life. And they're useless. Like, the dialogue and the scenes that they're in are just the most useless bunch of bahooey I've ever experienced. Their dialogue is literally them holding a martini. Yes, I betted on 222. Who did you bet on? Ooh, I betted on player 74. There's not even on player 074. Oh, that's the wrong decision. I betted on 456. He's won the game before, but I don't know if he'll win it again. That was all the VIPs done. And it was the most boring, useless, bad acting stuff I've seen in my life. Okay, while I'm editing this video, I've realized I just completely missed out a part, like an entire character's story. So, player 246 escaped the Squid Games with help from, I don't remember her name, but she was some sort of undercover, I don't know if she was undercover, but she basically worked for the Squid Games killing people. Nonetheless, she helped player 246 escape, and that was kind of their whole story. He wasn't in the games a whole lot. I think at the start of Season 3, she shot him, but then because she wanted to help him escape, she just told him to pretend to be dead. And then she ended up getting him out on a speedboat, and he went and lived his life, and then she ended up getting out as well, and she went out and lived her life. And I did like that, though, all those sequences throughout the seasons. I actually, although I'm speaking highly negatively throughout this entire video, I do think that part was enjoyable and a very good story. I also should probably touch on the detective throughout this entire series. Throughout the whole of Season 2 and the whole of Season 3, the detective is dead set on trying to find this island again, because obviously his memory's gone. He got shot by his brother, fell off a cliff, and then he forgot everything. So the entirety of Season 2 is him trying to find the island. The entirety of Season 3 is him trying to find the island. And in the last episode of Season 3, that's when he finds the island. What happens when he finds the island? Oh, buckle up, because this is sure as interesting. He goes onto the island, he sees his brother, he asks his brother why, and his brother completely ignores him and leaves. That's it. The entire storyline of the detective has just crumbled to a quadrillion pieces because his entire shtick was him finding the island and figuring out what's going on in the Squid Games, which doesn't happen. He just finds his brother, he says the word why, literally, that's not an exaggeration. I think he says why like 3 times. And then he leaves the island. The worst, most boring shit. This is the end of Squid Game. I just want to touch on this little part at the end because I just think it's just very, useless once again. The front man, or player 1, then delivers 456's clothes that he wore in Squid Game to his daughter who lives in America. And then also this, I think it's a bank card. I think it's got the rest of the money on it that he didn't spend from when he won the first game. That's fine, I guess. That happens. And then as he's kind of in a taxi driving away, the taxi pulls up in traffic. And he looks to the side and rolls the window down. And he sees someone in a suit, a blonde female who is played by Cate Blanchett. I think you pronounce her name, Cate Blanchett. She's a very famous actress. and she's playing that Dakchi game where you need to throw one envelope on the other and try and get it to flip. She's basically trying to recruit people for the Squid Game, and he kind of just looks at her and she looks at him, and then she looks away, and then he looks away, and he rolls up his window, and then they drive away, and that's the end of Squid Game. So that is opening the portal to Squid Game, the American version, which is actually a thing, by the way. It's not exaggeration. They're making a Squid Game American version. Great. I can't wait to see Squid Game all over again, just not dubbed. So anyway, that's it. Whether or not any of what I said made sense, you know, I'm not really good at yapping for 50 minutes straight, but hopefully it made as much sense as it could have. Basically what I was trying to say is Squid Game Season 3 was very dry and very boring, and they could have done so much more with it. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Bye.